The night it began, the air was too still, like the world held its breath. The moon hung low, swollen and red, painting the thatched roofs of Akinrele in ghostly light. I remember it clearly, the sound that tore my peace apart. Boom, boom, boom. The drums came from the forbidden forest, the one even the bravest hunters feared after sunset. Help! Help! I wanted to scream, but my throat locked tight, as though unseen hands gripped it. My heart pounded in rhythm with those drums, and the shadows around my hut seemed to breathe. I am Tobi, son of Baba Onajobi, a farmer by blood, 30 harvests old. My hoe had blistered my palms, my sweat had watered the stubborn earth, yet my harvest was nothing but dust and disappointment. That evening, my wife Abeni had boiled yam peels for supper. My son Kehinde cried of hunger until his voice broke. I sat in silence, my chest heavy with shame. Other men in the village now wore new clothes, their wives adorned in gold from Ibadan. Their houses roofed with zinc that shone like morning light. They said the gods had blessed them, but no one spoke of how. When the drum started, something inside me stirred. I should have covered my ears and prayed, but instead I listened. The sound seemed to whisper my name, low and sweet, like a promise. Tobi, Tobi, come and see what awaits. That was the night my fate turned. I rose from my mat, barefoot, heart trembling, and stepped out into the cold night. The forest called, and I, the fool that I was, answered. The forest path stretched before me, narrow and endless. The moonlight barely touched the ground. The tall Iroko tree swallowed it whole. My feet sank into damp earth, and the air smelled of old rain and secrets. Each step I took made the drums louder. Boom, boom, boom. They beat like the heart of something ancient, something that had been waiting. I wanted to turn back. Truly I did. But then I heard it, a voice soft as the wind calling my name. Tobi, Tobi. It wasn't Abeni. It wasn't anyone from the village. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. I froze. My breath turned cold. And then, just ahead, a faint light glimmered between the trees. I crept closer, my heartbeat racing. There, in a small clearing, stood a man, or what I thought was a man. He wore a long red cloth tied around his waist, and his skin glowed faintly like fire under the moon. His face was hidden behind a mask carved from wood, the kind priests wear during festivals, only darker, more alive. When he spoke, his words crawled across my skin.
You have worked, he said, but your hands reap nothing. You serve the earth, yet it refuses to serve you. Why? I couldn't answer. My tongue felt heavy. Come, the figure said, extending a hand. Take what you deserve. The gods do not feed the patient, they feed the bold. Something deep in me, a buried hunger, answered before my mind cooled. I reached for his hand, and as our palms touched, the drum stopped. The night fell silent, like the world had paused to witness a sin. When I woke the next morning, I was back in my hut, lying beside Abeni. The forest dew still clung to my legs. My heart pounded as I remembered the red-masked man. Had it been a dream? But no, on my palm, a strange mark burned like coal. A small spiral, dark and pulsing faintly. That day, I worked the farm as always, but when I struck my hoe into the earth, the soil split easily, rich and black. I gasped. Within moments, I uncovered a strange pot, sealed, heavy and humming with energy. I lifted it carefully, and the ground trembled. When I opened it, gold coins spilled into the light, glinting like fireflies. I staggered back, staring. Abeni ran to me, her eyes wide. Tobi, what is this? The gods have answered, I said, voice shaking. I wanted to believe it was true, but deep inside, a shadow whispered, the gods never give without taking. That night, I buried the pot beneath our bed, unable to sleep. The spiral on my palm glowed faintly in the dark. Somewhere outside, the forest drums began again, faint, distant, calling me back. But this time, I smiled instead of trembling. I thought I had found my salvation. I did not know I had just bought my curse. By the next market day, word spread like wildfire. Tobi, the poor farmer, had become Tobi, the rich man. I bought 2 goats, sacks of yam, and fine cloth for Abeni. I repaired my roof, then began building a new house with bricks. The villagers watched in awe. Some congratulated me, others whispered. "Did you win a prize, Baba?" they asked, half joking. "The gods finally remembered me," I replied, smiling too widely. At night, however, I could not sleep. I heard footsteps circling the house. Sometimes I saw eyes gleaming outside the window, red and watchful. When I stepped out, the yard would be empty. Only the wind moved. Abeni began to notice. She said one night, "Something is wrong. You don't look at me the same. You don't pray anymore."
I laughed it off, but inside, her words stung. The gold was changing me. I had begun to crave more land, more respect, more power. The mark on my palm darkened with each coin I spent, as though feeding on my greed. And then, one night, the drums returned. Again, closer this time, beating right behind my compound. Boom, boom, boom. When I stepped outside, the red-masked man was waiting by the gate. He stood under the moonlight, silent, tall, the red cloth fluttering like a flag in the wind. I froze, my throat dry. "Why are you here?" I managed to whisper. "You called me," he said, voice echoing like thunder wrapped in silk. "You took the gift, Tobi. Now it grows hungry." I felt the air around us thicken. The ground seemed to breathe beneath my feet. "What do you mean?" He tilted his head. "Wealth feeds on blood. That is the law of the deep. You will give, or it will kick." Fear clawed my heart. "No, you said nothing of this." The mask tilted again, and I swear I saw a smile behind it. Did I not? Mortal ears hear only what they desire. The drums began again, slow and deep. My vision blurred. The forest swayed as though alive. When I blinked, the red-masked figure was gone, and only the mark on my hand remained, now throbbing painfully, glowing like a living ember. I fell to my knees in the dust, trembling. For the first time, I realized I had not found wealth. I had opened a door, and something had walked through it. Sleep deserted me that night. I sat outside, staring into the forest. The drums had stopped again, but the echo lived inside me. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the call of a night bird, felt like a whisper of warning. I tried to tell myself it was all a dream, but the mark on my palm glowed faintly under the moonlight, proof that I was bound. By morning, my goats were dead, all 3 of them. Their bodies lay in the pen, their eyes wide open, blood leaking from their nostrils. Abeni screamed when she saw them. I buried the animals in silence, the smell of decay heavy in the air. "It is a curse," she whispered. "You must go to the priest." But I couldn't. The thought of stepping into the shrine made my skin crawl. How could I ask the gods for help when I had betrayed them? That evening, I washed the blood from my hands, but no matter how hard I scrubbed, the mark refused to fade. When I looked into the water bowl, my reflection rippled. Then, for a split second, it wasn't my face staring back. It was the red mask, smiling. By the 3rd day, I could no longer bear the torment. I went to Baba Orun, the oldest priest in Akinrele. His hut smelled of incense and palm oil. Cowrie shells lay scattered before him, and the air shimmered with quiet power. He looked at me long before I spoke.
You have touched what should never be touched, he said softly. Your hands are no longer yours, Tobi. I fell to my knees. Help me, Baba. I didn't know. He said it was a gift. There are no gifts from the dark, the old man replied. He cast his shells, his eyes clouding over. The spirit you met is not a god of harvest. It is Ajogun, Iku, the taker of lives. Each coin you spend demands a soul. Have you not seen the signs? My heart froze. The goats, the dead grass around my farm. Return what you took, Baba Orun said. Bury the pot, cleanse your blood, and pray before dawn. I ran home that evening determined to obey. But the moment I touched the pot buried under our bed, a voice hissed from the shadows. It's too late. Abeni grew restless. She no longer sang while cooking or laughed while washing clothes by the stream. She watched me like a stranger, her eyes full of quiet dread. One night she said, "Whatever you brought into this house, it is killing us." I wanted to deny it, but my voice failed. The gold had begun to lose its shine, blackening like rotten fruit. Even the air in our hut felt heavy, like something unseen sat between us. That night, Abeni dadded Kehinde and whispered, "We will go to my mother's place in Iseyun. You can come when this madness ends." I grabbed her arm too roughly. I said, "You cannot leave me," I said trembling. "Don't you see? If you go, they will take you too." She stared at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "They? Who are they, Tobi?" I could not answer. The drum started again, faint at first, then louder. Boom, boom, boom. The roof shook. The lamp went out. In the dark, I saw two red eyes behind her shoulder. Abeni screamed. I never saw her again after that night.
When dawn came, the compound was silent. Abeni's wrapper lay on the floor beside Kehinde's wooden toy. The door was wide open, swinging in the wind. I ran from hut to hut, calling her name, but no one had seen her leave. The villagers began to whisper again. Some said she had run away with the child. Others said the forest spirits had claimed her. I knew the truth, but could not bear to speak it. My house became a tomb of silence. Even the birds avoided the roof. The mark on my palm burned more fiercely with each sunrise. I stopped going to the market. I stopped praying. I drank palm wine till my head spun, trying to drown the guilt that clung to me like smoke. Then one evening, as I staggered home, I saw them, footprints in the mud leading from my door toward the forest. Small, like Kehinde's, fresh. The drums began again. I followed the footprints. The night was darker than any before, the moon hidden behind thick clouds. The air buzzed with unseen voices. The deeper I went, the more the forest seemed to close around me. Branches brushed my face like hands trying to hold me back. I called out, "Kehinde!" My voice echoed and returned distorted, mocking. Then in a clearing ahead, I saw him, my little boy, standing beside the red-masked figure. I ran, heart-breaking, but the ground melted into mist beneath me. The masked man turned, his voice like wind over graves. "He belongs to me now, Tobi. You offered him when you took what was not yours." I fell to my knees, screaming. Kehinde looked at me with empty eyes, then vanished into the dark. When I woke, I was lying at the edge of the forest, my hands covered in ash. The mark on my palm had spread to my wrist, crawling like veins of fire. I had lost everything: my wife, my child, my soul. And still, the drums did not stop. Days passed, but time no longer felt real. I moved through the village like a shadow. Children stopped playing when I passed. Old women crossed themselves, whispering prayers. My name had become a curse on their lips. Tobi, the man who eats his own blood. One night, I sat before my small mirror, the one Abeni once used to tie her headscarf. The room was dim, the oil lamp flickering weakly. I looked at my reflection and barely recognized the man staring back. Sunken eyes, cracked lips,
and a faint red glow beneath the skin. Then the mirror blinked. For a heartbeat, my reflection smiled, a slow, twisted grin that was not mine. The mouth moved before I could. "You called us," it whispered. "Now you will feed us." The lamp went out. The mirror cracked from corner to corner. In the darkness, something brushed my ear. A cold breath, a whisper, a laugh. I fled from the hot screaming, but the sound of my own laughter followed me into the night. That week was the Oro festival, when the men of Akinrele wore masks to honor the spirits of their ancestors. Drums filled the air again, but this time I could not tell whether they came from men or from them. As I walked through the crowd, I felt eyes on me. Every mask turned my way. Some smiled, others scowled. The priest chanted, his staff raised high, but I heard another voice beneath his, deep, ancient, calling my name. "Tobi." I turned, and there he was, the red-masked man, among the dancers, moving with unnatural grace. My heart stopped. No one else seemed to see him. His mask gleamed in the sun, wet as if freshly painted with blood. He leaned close as he passed and whispered, "Your time shortens." I stumbled backward, the crowd's laughter echoing in my head. For the rest of that festival, I could not tell which masks were men and which were demons. I returned home that evening and lifted the clay pot once more. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside, the gold coins had turned to dust, fine black dust that smelt like death. I screamed, throwing the pot against the wall. It shattered, and the dust scattered across the floor, swelling like smoke. The mark on my arm flared, crawling to my shoulder. My breath came short. I fell to the ground, convulsing as whispers filled my head. More blood, more life, pay the price. I crawled outside, gasping for air. The villagers saw me and ran. My body burned with fever, yet the air around me felt cooled. I knew then my wealth had never been gold. It was a chain, and now it was tightening. I dug my fingers into the soil, crying out to any god who would listen. But only the wind answered, carrying the faint beat of the drums. Boom, boom, boom. At dawn, Baba Orun came to my compound. He looked older than before, his face heavy with kiti. "I told you, my son," he said softly. "Ajogun Iku has claimed your bloodline. You cannot buy back what is already taken." I begged him. I fell at his feet. "Please, Baba, tell me what to do. I will give everything." He shook his head. "It is not about what you give, Tobi. It is about what you took. Wealth that comes from death cannot dwell with the living." He sprinkled white chalk on my forehead and began a chant. For a moment, the drums ceased. The air lightened. I thought the curse was breaking. Then Baba Orun coughed, staggered and fell, blood pouring from his mouth. I screamed his name, but he did not move. The mark on my body pulsed like a heartbeat. I looked at my hands, trembling, and realized I had killed the only man who could save me. The night after Baba Orun's death, the villagers came with torches. They surrounded my compound, shouting, "Witch, murderer, he killed the priest." I ran outside, barefoot, my clothes torn. "No, it was not me," I cried. But even as I spoke, the earth trembled, the sky darkened, the wind roared. Flames burst from the roof of my hut without a single spark. My home burned with unnatural fire, blue, not red. I heard Abeni's voice in the crackle of the flames. "You brought this on us, Tobi." The villagers scattered, terrified. I fell to my knees as the fire danced around me, licking my skin without burning it. My mark glowed brighter, spreading across my chest like living lightning. And in the flames, the red-masked man appeared once more. He raised his hand. "Now you belong to me completely." The drums began again, faster, louder, until they became the only sound in the world. And I laughed, because at last I understood. My wealth was never gold. My wealth was my damnation.
By morning, Akinrele no longer wanted me. The elders met beneath the Iroko tree and called my name with fear and anger. Tobi, son of Onajobi, the elders said, his voice shaking, "You have brought death among us. Leave this village before sunset, or the spirits will consume us all." I tried to speak, to plead, but no words came. My tongue felt heavy, as if bound by invisible chains. The villagers turned away. Even those who once shared my palm wine refused to look at me. So I left, alone. I walked down the dusty path, the fields of yam and cassava fading behind me. The forest loomed ahead, humming with whispers. Every russo sounded like laughter. I carried nothing but the clothes on my back and the curse on my skin. That night, I slept beneath an old tree, but rest never came. In my dreams, I saw Abeni and Cain they standing by the fire, their faces pale, their mouths sewn shut. Behind them, the red masked man stood smiling. "Home is wherever your sin lies," he said. And when I woke, the mark on my chest had begun to pulse like a second heart. I wandered for days, following the path that led toward the great Ogun River. The sound of rushing water was a mercy, a reminder that something pure still lived in this world. I knelt to drink, but the water turned dark as I touched it. My reflection stared back, but it was no longer human. My eyes glowed faint red, my mouth curved into a grin I didn't command. Then a woman appeared across the river, tall, wrapped in white cloth, her face hidden by a veil. She spoke softly, like wind through leaves. "Tobi, son of Onajobi, why did you take what was not yours?" "I wanted to feed my family," I whispered. "Your hunger was never of the stomach. You hungered for power, for name. And now it is name that will destroy you." I begged her for help, but she only turned and walked into the water, vanishing beneath the surface. When she disappeared, the river went silent. Not even the crickets dared to sing. On the 7th night, I reached a market I had never seen before. Lanterns glowed, though no oil burned within them. Stalls lined the road, filled with strange goods. Cowries that whispered, pots that bled, mirrors that moved on their own. The traders smiled too widely, their teeth sharp and gleaming. One of them beckoned me closer. "Tobi, come, see what your money can buy now." My heart froze. He knew my name. I looked closer and recognized their faces. Men from Akinrele, men long dead. Their skin was pale as ash, their eyes hollow. "You should have buried the gold," one hissed. "Now you trade in souls."
I stumbled backward, shouting a prayer, but the words turned to dust on my tongue. The traders laughed as the market dissolved into mist, leaving me standing alone on an empty path. Only the echo of their laughter followed me. "You can never buy peace, Tobi, only death." That night, the sky tore open, lightning ripped across the heavens, and thunder rolled like drums of war. I ran through the rain, soaked and trembling, until I found a small abandoned hut near the hillside. Inside, I lit a small fire and huddled close, trying to feel human again. But the shadows in the corner moved when I didn't. They whispered in voices I knew, Abenis, Keyendes, Baba Oruns. "Why, Tobi?" they asked. "Was it worth it?" I pressed my hands to my ears, but the whispers grew louder. The flames flickered and turned blue. Then the red-masked man stepped through the fire like it was water. He crouched before me, his voice almost tender. "You cannot run from what you have become. Your wealth lies within you now, and it will grow until it devours all." I lunged at him with the firebrand, but he passed through his chest like smoke. He laughed, and the storm outside roared louder. When I woke, the hut was gone, Only ashes remained. At last, I returned to where it all began, the forest of Akinrele. The trees greeted me with silence, their trunks blackened by an unseen fire. My feet knew the way even before my mind did. The path led straight to the clearing where I first met him. The air was thick, humming like a drum before a ritual. I saw the mask hanging from a branch, waiting for me. I fell to my knees, tears mixing with the mud. "Please," I whispered, "take everything. Take my life. Just give me peace." The mask turned slowly. Its hollow eyes stared into mine. "Peace is not your portion," it said. "You wanted to live like a god. Now you would wander like a ghost." The ground split open beneath me. The wind howled like the voices of the dead. I screamed as the darkness swallowed me whole. The last thing I heard before losing myself was the drums, those endless, merciless drums beating my name into the night. Darkness, that was all I knew when I opened my eyes again. I lay on damp soil, my body weightless, my breath cold as harmattan wind. Around me, the forest shimmered faintly, its trees twisted and alive, their roots moving like snakes beneath the earth.
Then I heard voices, whispers, murmurs that sounded like mine. "Tobi, Tobi." They came from the shadows, hundreds of them. Faces began to appear, men and women, eyes hollow, skin pale like moonlight. "We were like you," they said. "We took what was not ours. Now we walk forever." I wanted to scream, but my voice refused to obey. The ground pulsed with red light, the same color as the mark that now covered my entire body. I realized I was standing in the realm between life and death, the land of those who traded their souls for gold. The red-masked man stood at the center, surrounded by spirits that bowed before him. "Welcome home, my rich man," he said. "Your wealth is eternal here." And as he spoke, gold coins began to rain from the sky. But when I caught one, it melted into blood in my palm. He led me through the forest that was not a forest anymore, but a vast market of lost souls. Drums thundered from every direction, their rhythm matched by the heartbeat of the earth. I saw men dressed in fine agbadas, women adorned in jewels, people who had been kings, traders, chiefs. Yet their eyes were empty, their smiles cracked. Each carried a golden pot that leaked blood onto the ground. "This is the wealth you sought," said the red-masked man. "This is the price all mortals must pay when greed blinds their hearts." As we walked, I saw faces I knew. Habeni, Keindi, Babaoro. They stood among the spirits, motionless, their eyes pleading with me. I fell before them, weeping. "Forgive me," I begged. "Forgive me for bringing you here." Habeni opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. Only tears of ash rolled down her cheeks. The red-masked man raised his staff. "No forgiveness," he said. "Only memory." And suddenly, all the spirits began to chant my name. Slow, rhythmic, mocking. "Tobi, Tobi, Tobi." I could bear it no longer. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. "Take my soul, take my body, just end this torment." The red-masked man tilted his head. "You misunderstand, Tobi. You already gave your soul the night you took my hand. But your cause can serve others. You will walk the earth again, not as man, not as spirit, but as warning." The ground cracked open, and flames surged around us. I screamed as fire licked my skin, yet it did not burn. It marked. Symbols etched themselves across my body, glowing like molten iron. When the fire died, the mask floated toward me. It settled on my face. I tried to pull it off, but it fused to my flesh.
The voice spoke again, this time from within me. "Now you are my messenger.
Wherever greed grows, your footsteps will follow. The drums began anew, slower this time, like the rhythm of my heart surrendering to the darkness. When I awoke, I was standing at the edge of Akinrele once more. The sun shone brightly, and the villagers went about their day. Children played, women fetched water. Life had moved on without me. I tried to call out, but no sound came. My reflection in the river showed only the red mask. When I stepped into the village, no one saw me. Only the dogs howled and ran. That night, a young man sat outside his hut, complaining about his poverty. I watched him as he clenched his fists and stared at the forest. I saw myself in him, hungry, desperate, blind. And then I heard the faintest sound, drifting from the trees. Boom, boom, boom. The drums were calling again. This time, I was not the hunted, I was the call. I stretched out my hand toward the young man. The forest wind whispered his name. They say on quiet nights in Akinrele, when the moon turns red and the wind grows still, you can hear drums deep in the forest. The elders tell the young ones not to follow. They say a man walks there, tall, masked, glowing faintly like fire. Some call him Ajogun's shadow, others simply call him Tobi the greedy. I cannot tell how long I have walked this path. Years, decades, centuries. I do not hunger. I do not sleep. I only watch and wait for the next fool who believes there's easy gold hidden in the earth. Sometimes I see the faces of Abeni and Kehinde in the stars. They do not smile, but their light reminds me of what I lost. I whisper their names into the wind, though no one hears. My story is not just mine. It is every man's who trades sweat for shortcuts, love for luxury, faith for fortune. So, if you ever hear drums in the Yoruba night, remember this: the forest always calls the greedy, and when it does, do not answer. Because I did, and I never came back.